Cold silence enveloped the USS Vigilant, a weary human vessel adrift in the vastness of space. Captain Marcus Kane peered through the viewport, his expression a mixture of determination and trepidation. The ship, an aging relic of a bygone era, floated like a ghost amidst the stars, its once bright hull now marred by countless battles. Yet Kane knew that appearances could be deceiving. This old ship held secrets that even the fiercest enemies would underestimate. "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Davis said, her voice breaking the stillness. She stood at her station, fingers dancing across the controls as the ship's instruments buzzed with life. "We're picking up a fleet of Kyrek ships on the long-range scanners. They're heading our way." Kane's brow furrowed. The Kyrek Empire had a reputation for brutality, their ships sleek and deadly, their commanders ruthless. "How many?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "3 ships heavily armed," Davis replied, glancing at the readouts. "If they engage, we're outgunned." "Then we won't let them engage," Kane said, a steely resolve settling over him. He turned to his crew, a group of seasoned veterans who had stood by him through thick and thin. "Prepared to activate the emergency protocols. If they want to play Predator, let's give them a reason to regret it." As the crew scrambled to their stations, Kane felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. He wasn't just fighting for his ship, he was fighting for humanity's right to exist in a galaxy that often saw them as weak and insignificant. He glanced at Davis, who met his gaze with a nod, her blue eyes sparkling with determination. "Captain," she said, her voice firm. "What's the plan?" "Get ready to broadcast a distress signal," he replied, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Let's make them think we're an easy target." As the Kyrek fleet drew nearer, the stars dimmed against the shadow of their imposing ships. Kane's heart raced. He could sense the impending clash, the thrill of the hunt pulsing through him. He was about to turn the tables on a predator that had hunted countless civilizations without remorse. "Distress signal is live," Davis announced, her fingers flying over the controls. "They're responding. They think we're helpless." "Good," Kane said, his voice low and confident. "Let them come. I want them to see what they're up against." The tension in the air thickened as the alien ships approached, sleek and glistening with malice. Kane watched as their weapons systems powered up, brilliant energy arcs crackling to life. The lead ship, adorned with the emblem of the Kyrek Empire, surged forward, its captain undoubtedly reveling in the thrill of the chase. "Fire at will," Kane commanded, his heart pounding as he made his move. "Show them they picked the wrong prey." The Vigilant jolted as Kane's orders echoed through the ship. A volley of energy beams shot toward the approaching Kyrek ships, but instead of destruction, they met an unexpected fate. A shimmering barrier enveloped the human vessel, absorbing the blasts with a soft hum. "What the?" Davis gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. "Their shields shouldn't be able to absorb that." Kane's smile widened, but he remained focused. "They've underestimated us. Engage the countermeasures. Let's turn this around." Before the Kyrek fleet could react, Kane unleashed a torrent of calculated strikes, designed to disable rather than destroy. The alien ships began to convulse, their systems flickering as chaos unfolded. Zyrex, the overconfident commander of the leading ship, watched in horror as his fleet spiraled into disarray. "Status report," he barked, his voice cracking with frustration. "Everything is malfunctioning," a crew member shouted, panic rising in his voice. "They're attacking with technology we've never encountered." In that moment, Kane stood firm, the weight of his crew's hopes resting on his shoulders. "This is just the beginning," he murmured, watching the chaos from the bridge. "Welcome to humanity's lesson." As the tide of battle shifted, the air crackled with tension, and the stakes had never been higher. Kane's voice rang out, unwavering, as he prepared to teach the Kyrek a lesson they would never forget. Counteroffensive. A deep hum resonated through the USS Vigilant, a stark contrast to the chaotic visuals on the bridge. Commander Zyrex watched as his flagship, the Vengeance, succumbed to a relentless barrage of countermeasures from the human ship. His jaw clenched in disbelief, fingers tapping furiously on the console in front of him. Reinstate our weapon systems! We must regain control! On the Vigilant, Captain Marcus Kane stood resolute, watching the alien fleet's disarray with a mixture of triumph and caution. Maintain energy levels on the shields, he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension radiating from the crew. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. I want us to remain a moving target. Captain, Lieutenant Sarah Davis interjected, her voice a blend of excitement and apprehension. Their systems are destabilizing, but they'll regroup quickly. We can't let them get their footing back. Kane nodded, appreciating her intuition. Agreed. Let's make it hard for them to think straight. Can you access their comms? Davis's fingers danced across her console, her brows furrowed in concentration. On it. I'll tap into their frequency. We can use their own arrogance against them. As the alien ships flickered under the weight of their own confusion, Kane's tactical mind raced. His crew had turned the tables against a foe that once seemed invincible, but he knew the fight was far from over. The Kyrek were not easily beaten. They were a force that had conquered worlds, a testament to their military prowess. Captain, I'm in, Davis announced, her expression shifting from concentration to fierce determination. I can hear them cursing their failure. Zyrex is desperate. He's giving them orders to regroup and re-engage. Let's give him something to really worry about, Kane replied, a calculated glint in his eyes. Broadcast the following. We know your tactics, Zyrex. You're not as clever as you think. Davis's fingers paused. Are you sure that's wise? Taunting him could provoke a reckless attack. Exactly, Kane replied, a smile flickering across his face. A reckless attack is what we want. If they underestimate us again, we can capitalize on it. With a flick of her wrist, Davis sent the message through the alien channels. The moment it transmitted, the Kyrek fleet erupted with agitation. Kane could almost see Zyrex's furious face through the comms as the air crackled with tension. Let's up the ante, Kane said, leaning forward. Engage in evasive maneuvers. Prepare to drop flares. We need to create confusion. Davis nodded, her eyes shining with admiration. I'll handle it. As they activated the flares, blinding lights shot out into space, illuminating the void like 1,000 stars exploding in an instant. The Kyrek ships, already rattled, hesitated, and Kane seized the moment. Now! Launch our disruptor drones, he commanded, voice rising above the tumult. The Vigilant shook as the drones were deployed, darting out like angry wasps. They zipped toward the Kyrek fleet, disorienting the aliens with a cascade of blinding lights and electromagnetic pulses. The tension escalated as one by one, the alien ships began losing power, drifting helplessly in the depths of space. Direct hit on the lead ship, a crew member shouted, the excitement palpable. They're losing their shields. Kane's heart raced. Press the advantage. Engage with everything we have. But just as they gained momentum, the screen flickered. A large burst of energy erupted from the Vengeance, and Kane's breath caught. What is that? Reactivating their main cannons, Davis cried out. They're targeting us. Dodge it. Now! Kane barked, adrenaline surging through his veins as he fought to keep his composure. The Vigilant twisted sharply, narrowly avoiding the lethal blast. The energy surged past them, illuminating the bridge in a stark, brilliant light. The crew exhaled collectively, relief washing over them like a wave. Sir, Davis said, breathless but focused. We need to disable their cannons before they can regroup again. Kane considered her words, his mind racing with possibilities. Can we disable their engines? If we cut their power, we can force them to surrender. We might just be able to, Davis replied, determination gleaming in her eyes. But we'll need to get closer. That'll put us at risk. Kane weighed the options, his instincts screaming caution. But beneath that fear, the thrill of battle called to him. We have to take that risk. This is our chance to teach them a lesson. Let's show them what humanity is capable of. With a nod, Davis prepared the ship for the maneuver, the air thick with tension as they plotted a risky course toward the heart of the enemy formation. As they surged forward, the bridge lit up with alarms, the flashing lights echoing the rising stakes. "Engage thrusters!" Kane commanded, gripping the edge of his command chair. The ship lurched forward, and Kane felt the familiar rush of exhilaration. This was humanity's moment, not just to survive, but to thrive. As they closed in on the Kyrek flagship, Kane knew that victory was within reach. But the path ahead was fraught with danger, and the battle had only just begun. The USS Vigilance surged forward, its engines roaring defiantly as Kane focused intently on the approaching Kyrek flagship, the Vengeance. Energy crackled in the air, an electric tension suffusing the bridge as his crew scrambled to respond to the ever-evolving situation. They were outgunned, outnumbered, but the spirit of defiance burned brightly in each of them. "Reinforce the shields!" Kane commanded, gripping the armrest of his chair, determination radiating from him. "Prepare for a full-speed collision course." Sarah Davis's eyes widened, her voice steady yet edged with concern. "Captain, if we hit them head-on, we'll risk our structural integrity. We might not survive the impact." "We will survive," Kane insisted, conviction pouring from his words. "We have to end this now. The longer we allow them to regroup, the more lives we put at risk." The crew exchanged glances, understanding the gravity of the moment. They were fighting not just for survival, but to prove humanity's resilience in a galaxy that often deemed them inferior. "On your mark," Davis said, her fingers flying over the controls, the lights of the console illuminating her determined expression. As they hurtled toward the Vengeance, Kane felt adrenaline coursing through his veins. This wasn't just a battle, it was a statement. A declaration that humanity would not be cowed, even in the face of overwhelming odds. "Now!" he shouted, a fire igniting in his chest. The ship jolted violently as they unleashed a barrage of plasma rounds, aimed directly at the Kyrek's engines. The air shimmered as the rounds struck, and an explosion erupted behind the flagship, sending ripples through the fabric of space. "Direct hit!" a crew member exclaimed, exhilaration mingling with disbelief. "Keep pushing forward," Kane ordered, his gaze fixed on the maelstrom of chaos. "Davis, can you get us into their systems? We need to disable their weaponry before they can retaliate." "I'm on it," she replied, her fingers racing over the console. "But their defenses are strong. We'll need a distraction to penetrate their systems." Kane's mind raced. "Drones! Deploy our remaining drones to create a diversion. Make them think we're coming from multiple angles." With a quick command, the remaining drones shot out from the ship, zipping around like fireflies, creating a disorienting dance of lights. The Kyrek crew, already panicking, struggled to anticipate the Vigilance's next move. Kane could almost feel Zyrek's frustration seeping through the comms, an intoxicating taste of victory edging closer. As the chaos unfolded, Davis's focus never wavered. "I'm breaking into their systems," she said, her voice calm amid the chaos. "But it's like swimming through molasses. Their defenses are tougher than I expected." "Just a little longer," Kane urged, watching the frantic motions on the viewscreen as the drones and ships weaved through the battlefield. "We're nearly there." A massive surge erupted from the Vengeance, its weapons systems suddenly flaring to life as they retaliated against the Vigilant. A series of energy blasts shot toward them, illuminating the bridge with an ominous glow. "Brace for impact!" Kane yelled, his heart pounding. The ship shuddered violently as a blast grazed their port side, sending alarms blaring through the cabin. Crew members were thrown against their consoles, but Kane remained steadfast. "Report!" he shouted, fighting to regain control of the situation. "Shields at 50%! Davis exclaimed, struggling against the controls. "We can't take another hit like that!" Kane inhaled deeply, channeling his frustration into focus. "We can't let them overwhelm us. We need to take down their systems, now!" He felt a surge of hope. They were on the brink of victory. "Davis, can you isolate their weapons systems?" "Almost there," she shouted, her fingers a blur as she navigated through the chaos. "Just a few more seconds." I can redirect power to our shields if we need to. Not yet, Kane interjected, his eyes narrowing. Trust me. We're going to end this. With a sudden jolt, a transmission burst through the comms, Zyrek's voice dripping with venom. You humans think you can defy the Kyrek Empire? You are nothing but ants beneath our boot. Ants that bite back, Kane retorted, a grin spreading across his face. Davis, how much longer? Almost there, she echoed, sweat beading on her brow, determination flaring in her eyes. With a crackling pulse, the drones continued to whiz around the flagship, their erratic movements pulling the Kyrek's attention. The tension reached a boiling point, a standoff teetering on the edge of annihilation. Kane knew the stakes. If they faltered now, it could cost them everything. Suddenly, the bridge illuminated with a brilliant flash. Got it! Davis cried out, her voice ringing with triumph. I've isolated their weapon systems. They won't be able to fire back. Now we strike, Kane commanded, his heart racing with adrenaline. Unleash everything we have. As energy blasts surged toward the Vengeance, Kane felt a surge of hope. The Vigilant had withstood the storm and emerged stronger, but the battle wasn't over. The true test lay ahead as they raced toward the enemy, ready to deliver the final blow. But just as victory seemed within their grasp, the Vengeance began to glow ominously. Captain, their reactors are overloading, a crew member shouted, panic rising in their voice. They're going to self-destruct. Kane's heart dropped as he processed the implications. All hands! Evasive maneuvers! He barked. Get us out of here! The Vigilant jerked violently as Kane wrestled with the controls, the ship swerving away from the impending explosion. He could feel the heat radiating from the enemy vessel as they distanced themselves, the reality of the situation settling in. As the Vengeance erupted in a cataclysmic explosion behind them, a wave of energy rocked the Vigilant, sending it careening through space. They had survived, but the cost of their victory hung heavily in the air. Damage report! Kane shouted, gripping the console for stability as the crew scrambled to assess the fallout. Davis's voice broke through the chaos. We've sustained damage, but we're intact. We've proven we can fight, Captain! The thrill of victory washed over Kane, mingling with the weight of sacrifice. They had faced a formidable enemy and lived to tell the tale, but the universe was vast and filled with dangers yet to come. As he looked at his crew, Kane realized they had taken the first step in changing the narrative of humanity's place in the galaxy. But deep within, he understood that the true battle for survival had only just begun. The USS Vigilant drifted through the stillness of space, its hull scorched and battered from the previous battle. The remnants of the Vengeance still flickered in the distance, a haunting reminder of the stakes they had faced. Kane stood on the bridge, his heart heavy with the weight of victory. They had survived, but at what cost? Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Sarah Davis announced, her voice tinged with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The consoles flickered, casting ghostly light over the bridge. It's from Fleet Command. Put it through, Kane ordered, bracing himself for the inevitable fallout. The display shimmered, revealing a stern-faced admiral with graying hair and an intense gaze. Captain Kane, the admiral began, his tone grave. I'm aware of the situation regarding the Kyrek. Your actions have been unconventional. You've drawn attention. Admiral, we faced overwhelming odds and triumphed. Humanity is capable of more than mere survival, Kane replied, the fire of defiance igniting once more within him. Triumph? You've instigated a potential galactic war. The admiral shot back, his gaze unwavering. The Kyrek will not take this lightly. You must prepare for retaliation. Kane glanced around the bridge, seeing the weariness etched into his crew's faces. They had fought valiantly, yet he felt the undercurrent of fear. We'll be ready, sir, he affirmed, determination lacing his words. We won't back down. Prepare for a briefing, the admiral replied, the screen flickering off. You'll need to update the rest of the fleet on the Kyrek's movements and our next steps. As the transmission ended, a tense silence fell over the bridge. Kane rubbed the bridge of his nose, feeling the strain of leadership weigh heavily on his shoulders. Davis, what's our status on repairs? Minor damage sustained to the aft shield generator, but the main systems are operational. We should be ready to move in a few hours, she reported, her tone efficient but tinged with exhaustion. But we need to strategize. The Kyrek won't let this go unanswered. Agreed. We need to anticipate their next move, Kane said, his mind racing. He turned to the crew, determination sparking in his eyes. We're not just defending ourselves, we're declaring our place in this galaxy. Humanity has been underestimated for too long. Captain, a crew member piped up, a hint of apprehension lacing their voice. What if they retaliate with more than just ships? What if they decide to target Earth? Kane's jaw clenched at the thought. He had seen too many lives lost to fear. We prepare for every scenario. We must be ready to defend our home, our people. Gather intelligence on their fleet movements, and analyze their battle patterns. Hours passed as they worked, the bridge a flurry of activity. Maps of the Kyrek Empire glowed on the screens, each projection marking potential routes of attack. Davis was in her element, her fingers dancing across the console, pulling up data and simulations. Captain, she called, excitement threading through her voice. I've pinpointed the likely staging areas. If they plan to retaliate, it'll be from these coordinates. She highlighted a cluster of asteroids. We can use this to our advantage. Kane leaned over the console, studying the projection. If we can disrupt their supply lines here, we could weaken their response. He mused. Let's formulate a plan. Just then, the alarm blared, cutting through their concentration like a knife. The lights dimmed, and the bridge erupted into chaos. Incoming transmission! A crew member shouted, their face pale with fear. It's the Kyrek! On screen! Kane barked, his heart racing. The screen flickered back to life, revealing a dark silhouette against the backdrop of stars. Xyrex's cold, reptilian features twisted into a sinister smile. Humans, he sneered. You have awakened a wrath that will not be ignored. We come for retribution. Kane's fists clenched at his sides. You won't intimidate us, Xyrex. We stand ready to defend ourselves. Xyrex laughed, a chilling sound. You have no idea what you face. Our forces are gathering. You will be crushed under the weight of the Kyrek Empire. The transmission cut out, leaving a void of silence behind. Kane felt a mix of rage and determination. They're coming, he said, his voice low but steady. We need to be prepared. Davis turned to him, her eyes bright with fervor. We've faced them once, we can do it again. We need to fight back with everything we have. Exactly, Kane agreed, adrenaline surging through him. We'll use their underestimation against them. Prepare for a counteroffensive. Inform the fleet of our plans and the locations of the Kyrek staging areas. The crews sprang into action, the tension crackling in the air as they coordinated their efforts. Kane felt the familiar rush of purpose flooding through him. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their future. Hours turned into a blur as the crew worked tirelessly, setting traps and formulating strategies. The ship was alive with energy, each member committed to the cause. The battle ahead loomed like a storm cloud, but they were ready to confront it. Captain, Davis called, urgency in her tone. We've got visual on Kyrek ships entering the sector. They're moving fast. Deploy our drones as scouts? Kane ordered, his pulse quickening. We need eyes on their movements. As the drones launched, Kane felt the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. Remember, this isn't just about winning a battle, it's about proving our worth. We fight not only for ourselves but for all of humanity. Onward then! Davis cheered, her enthusiasm infectious. The crew rallied, their spirits ignited by Kane's words. As the monitors illuminated with reports of incoming Kyrek forces, the atmosphere grew electric with anticipation. The moment they had trained for, the moment they had fought for, was finally upon them. Captain, they're entering the outer perimeter! A crew member called, urgency dripping from their voice. Kane stood firm, adrenaline coursing through him as he gazed out at the approaching fleet. "Prepare for battle stations!" he commanded, each word a rallying cry. The ship thrummed beneath him, a testament to their strength and unity. They were ready to face the enemy head-on, to stand firm against the tide of fear and despair. Humanity would not be silenced or diminished. "Let's show them what we're made of!" Kane shouted, the words echoing off the walls of the bridge. As the Vigilant surged forward, heading straight into the fray, Kane felt a rush of pride for his crew, for their resilience. They were more than just a ship, they were a force to be reckoned with. And as the first shots rang out across the void, he knew they would fight until the very end. Together,